We want to be awake when it's bright outside, and we want to be asleep when it's dark outside. And actually, for the last few years, Russell and his research group have been working on what happens when the circadian rhythm is affected, i.e. when you sleep at weird times. For example, if you've got jet lag, or for example, if you're working night shifts. And they found that in these sorts of people that have this disruption to their circadian rhythm, you get an increase in stress hormones, you get an increase in the risk of heart disease, and these people get sick way more often, and they're also more prone to emotional and cognitive problems.
97% of night shift workers do not adapt to the demands of working at night. So they're working against an entire biology, which is saying you should be asleep.
Now, it's important to realize that even though we all have an internal clock ticking away inside of ourselves, not all of our internal clocks are set in exactly the same way. And so when you hear people saying, I'm a morning person or I'm a night owl, that relates to something called your chronotype. Based on a natural inclination to sleep at a certain time, scientists can bucket us into something called chronotypes. For example, someone who naturally gets up early and finds the morning to be the most productive hours of the day probably has